This is The Rundown with Dan Wolf and Laura Lee on Northern News Now Plus.
Good evening, I'm Laura Lee. Thanks for joining us. Tensions are rising between the U.S. and Canada. Days after new tariffs kicked in, President Donald Trump is threatening to add even more, and Canada is now promising to retaliate. Washington correspondent Stephen Gowen has the latest.
It could take some time for American shoppers to be impacted here, but the reality is these new tariffs will be paid for by U.S. importers who may try to pass that cost along to you.
They asked too much, and they offered too little. Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families, and businesses.
That was the response from Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney after the Trump administration slapped those new 50% tariffs on about $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. The new levies target a range of products, including construction materials, alcohol, hockey sticks, certain clothing, furniture, and so much more. It's a significant escalation in an ongoing trade war. Though just days ago, there was some optimism for a deal after President Trump delayed the tariffs to negotiate, but those talks collapsed. The president now threatening even more tariffs on social media, writing, "On January 1st, 2027, tariffs on all cars, trucks, both large and small, automotive parts, and steel will be increased to 50%. And while lawmakers like Minnesota Democrat Amy Klobuchar warn the new tariffs will raise prices, the Trump administration is downplaying the impact.
The tariffs went into place over the weekend, which we warned about for a long time. They only cover about 5% of Canadian trade and only 0.06% of U.S. overall consumption. So we'll see. I mean, we're just moving forward with our trade policy as intended.
And we know Canada has promised their own retaliatory tariffs set to take effect on September 8th. In Washington, I'm Stephen Gowen.
Well, the dispute has united many Canadians across party lines. Some conservative leaders have now backed Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney in the trade dispute. That includes Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who today threatened to cut off exports of electricity and critical minerals to the U.S. if tensions continue to rise. Well, taking a live look at the Duluth Canal right now. People enjoying another beautiful day here in Canal Park and across the Northland for most of the day, Allison, but definitely cooling things down, and we're going to get some rain headed our way finally.
Yes, we did have a very nice day today, and we do have some rain on the way, so absolutely needed because of how dry it's been, but it was nice to have another day that felt like actually August.
Yes.
Starting later tonight, though, we are going to start to shift a little bit. Today we did get up to 72, so a little bit under what we normally see for this time of year, which is about 75, so it was a nice day today, a little cooler in some spots, but things are starting to tip back down for the night. Already down into 67 in Duluth, 70 degrees currently in Hibbing. It's a little warmer further south. It's currently 79 degrees in both Hinckley and Siren and 69 degrees over in Ironwood. Still seeing some sunshine out there and some clouds over the region and a little bit of drizzly rain. Some of this may be reaching the ground up near the international border, but much of this is pretty high up in the atmosphere, so likely not going to see any accumulation for that over the next couple of hours. Later tonight and into the morning tomorrow, though, we are going to have 2 rounds of storm chances. So one in the morning hours, we'll get a break by about 3 p.m. But in the afternoon and evening hours, we are going to see another shot for some thunderstorms. So for the rest of today, nothing is severe expected. But for tomorrow, we do have a marginal risk for some severe storms possible in both the morning and afternoon. Talk more about that and time that out for you in the full forecast in a few minutes.
All right, sounds good, Allison. Thank you. Well, most of Wisconsin is now in drought, with much of the Northwest listed as severe. And while that is hitting farmers and their crops, it's also affecting how we get our electricity. Xcel Energy owns 19 hydroelectric dams in Wisconsin, and they report that from January through the end of July, energy generation dropped by about 75% of normal levels due to the ongoing drought. Officials say the drought timeline extends all the way back to last fall, reducing hydroelectric generation significantly.
Even our storage reservoirs like the Chippewa flowage, they're just getting very, very low. So there's no really extra water to be had, so to speak. And sometimes people think like, well, if they just opened up more gates at the dam, the river would be higher. And that's just not the case. Up and down the river system, it's just low everywhere.
Xcel Energy reps say that right now they must defer to other energy sources like wind, solar, and natural gas. They also noted that customers should not see the drought impact to their power bills. They are working within strict federal regulations along with the DNR to ensure the environment remains protected even in these drought conditions. Well, construction enclosures began on a busy Duluth road today. This is what it looked like at 40th Avenue West this afternoon as crews got to work reconstructing the road there between 8th Street and the railroad tracks. The half-mile stretch will be closed to traffic with detours in place through October. People living there will still be able to access their homes. MnDOT leaders say that reconstructing the road is critical as it's old and at the end of its life. Eventually, the intersection at Grand Avenue will feature a new mini roundabout as well. Meanwhile, some detours also began on Duluth's West Superior Street at Mesaba Avenue today. A section of road there is now closed through the end of October while crews work on repairing a bridge in the area. We have those detour details online. Wisconsin tribal leaders are looking to expand a free tuition program. Tribal leaders and lawmakers met today to talk about the future of the Wisconsin Tribal Education Promise program. Thanks to private funding, the program covers the full in-state cost for Native students to attend UW-Madison. Tribal leaders say that they'd like to see the program expand to the rest of the UW system.
That expansion across UW institutes is ideal because when we look at our aggregates, we know that a majority of our students attend UW institutions beyond the flagship UW-Madison.
The committee plans to meet again in the next month or two to discuss their plans, including what publicly funding the program expansion would cost. Still to come, big-time college athletics is a multi-billion-dollar industry. See what our national investigative team uncovered about who is getting paid from this billion-dollar blitz. Across America, big-time college athletics is a $12 billion industry and growing. And while coaches get rich, schools get the prestige. But our national investigative team found that 99 of the 109 public athletic departments cannot cover their own expenses. In many instances, college students and taxpayers are getting stuck with the tab of this billion-dollar blitz. Here's national investigative reporter Chris Nakamoto with the staggering stats.
As college football fever builds for the fall, we're taking you back to Auburn's spring game. Waves of wound-up fans are full of high energy, with even higher expectations of a winning football season. Hope for this season hangs in the air. That's because Auburn has just changed its football coach again. Their newest addition, Alex Golesh, hired in late 2025 from USF. No other football program has replaced more football coaches in the past 5 years than Auburn, firing 3 coaches, Gus Malzahn, Brian Harsin, and Hugh Freeze, leaving Auburn on the hook each time with an ultimate total of $52 million in coach buyouts and some fans flustered.
Someone has got to be accountable.
Across America, accountability is a tough topic when it comes to beloved college football. and even harder to find for students at the sports-driven university, who paid $7 million last year in mandatory fees to fuel Gridiron glory.
That's an exorbitant amount of money, right?
The drive for football championships at Auburn and across America comes with massive spending. Our team found college athletics at 109 public universities costs $12.6 billion a year. To put that number into perspective, that's more than the entire annual state budgets of Idaho, Montana, New Hampshire, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, or Wyoming.
Can this system sustain itself? I think the answer basically is no.
Dr. Andrew Zimbalist is a sports economist at Smith College in Massachusetts.
Unlike the rest of the U.S. economy, where there's a lot of cost discipline that comes from the marketplace, there is no such discipline in college sports.
Through public records requests, NCAA financial disclosures, and analyzing Knight Newhouse data, our national investigative team found Auburn, like many universities these days, is passing the costs of bloated sports programs on to students. At least 99 of the 109 public universities cannot cover their own expenses, with taxpayers and students covering that $2.2 billion shortfall.
Happily for university presidents, they don't have to look students in their eyes.
As costs balloon, where exactly is that money going? Our team crunched the data. We found of the 107 schools that released their NCAA report, head coaches received $435 million salaries, a 40% increase over the past 5 years. 8 schools paid their coaches more than $10 million each. And we found it's not just head coaches cashing in. The handsome salaries extend to offensive and defensive coordinators. Alabama, LSU, Michigan, Ohio State, South Carolina, and Tennessee pay their coordinators at least $2 million annually.
What we have to decide as a nation is what it is we want colleges to do and what it is that we want college sports to do.
Over the past year, Congress has taken notice. This year, Representative Michael Baumgardner partnered with Senators Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell, a bipartisan move authoring the Protect College Sports Act of 2026. If approved, it would create a 20-member panel to study whether any intercollegiate sport should be subject to spending or cost limitations.
We want to have a successful educational system, and the role that college athletics historically has been meant to play is to supplement that system.
With the season starting, the scoreboard will ultimately show if this billion-dollar blitz nationwide is successful.
The Protect College Sports Act was introduced in the House and Senate back in June. It was referred to several committees where it sits in the House. Now, in the Senate, a motion was filed this month to decide whether to formally take up the bill for consideration.
We have some rain and thunderstorms on the way both tonight and throughout the day tomorrow. Talk more about that full forecast after the break. Well, we had an absolutely beautiful day today, but we are starting to see some showers approach the region. Right now, what we are seeing is very spotty at best. So northern St. Louis County along the international border is seeing some rain up there, but much of that is very high up in the atmosphere, so likely not seeing a whole lot near the ground. Looking further out, though, we can see actually to our west some thunderstorms bubbling up over in the Dakotas. So that is harbingers for what we are going to see for tomorrow. We do have a low pressure system and some fronts along it that are spiking up those storms further to the west. That is headed towards the Northland. So later this or next morning, I should say, we are going to see a round of thunderstorms both in the early morning hours as well as throughout the afternoon and evening. Following that, we are going to see some of that continue into our Wednesday. On the backside of this front, we could see some showers lingering throughout the afternoon Wednesday, likely not quite as much and definitely not going to be severe, but still some rainfall that we could see across the Northland before things do clear out for our Thursday and Friday, as high pressure is going to settle back into the region. So what we are expecting to see is in the overnight hours tonight, well past 2 and 3 a.m., we are going to see a line of showers and thunderstorms form and move through the area. Now, this is definitely over-exaggerating how much rain we could actually see with it, but I definitely could see small little cells popping up in minor pockets of this, dropping some rain on the region. That is going to head into Wisconsin and as well as the UP throughout the morning hours. In the afternoon, we will have a bit of some clearing time. So we are going to see some sunshine in some spots. How much sunshine we will see and how much cloud cover there is will determine what we see for the afternoon round. So with that afternoon round, we could have the potential to see some pretty large thunderstorm complexes, especially in parts of Minnesota and continuing further east into Wisconsin as well as in the UP. By 10 to 11 o'clock, though, things are going to clear out. Most of that rain will move off to the east, and what we'll be left with on the backside of that circulation is just some lingering spotty showers throughout the day on Wednesday. So what we are expecting with this is not flooding threats with how dry it's been, but we could see small to large hail possible with any of those storms that do run strong to severe, especially with what we're already seeing right now out to the west in the Dakotas. Obviously, the cards are on the table for some more severe impacts. Winds up to 40 to 60 miles per hour are going to be possible, and you can't rule out the chance of an isolated tornado, although it is very low. We will see a little bit of spin in the atmosphere, so obviously we could see a tornado here and there, but likely right now that storm risk is only a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk. So isolated severe storms are going to be possible, but likely not going to see much more than just isolated pockets of showers and thunderstorms for the afternoon. Now throughout the day tomorrow, everywhere else is going to get a little bit warmer than we saw today, so definitely good storm fuel getting up into those 80s further to our south. But for our day Wednesday, we're going to start to cool back down to right about average, getting into the 70s for our Wednesday afternoon. We're going to cool down a little bit more throughout the end of the week. So storm chances are going to be back in the forecast for our Tuesday as well as parts of Wednesday. Temperatures slowly tip back down to the lower 70s midweek. But back by the weekend, we are going to see some more rain chances into the forecast. Right now looking pretty low for our Saturday, but still could be possible throughout the afternoon as well as into our Sunday and Monday.
All right, yeah, we certainly can use that rain for sure tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, but it's going to be pretty comfortable the rest of the week anyway.
Yes, I'm so excited to see the 70s.
Thanks, Allison. Well, still to come, Northland firefighters have faced a number of bad fire years. Our Dave Anderson looks back at some of the past fires in this week's Holding On to History. Firefighters from all over have gathered near the Canadian border this summer to fight persistent wildfires. But this isn't their only year that they've done that. Northern News Now's Dave Anderson looks back at other bad fires and years in this week's Holding On to History.
We've certainly had our fair share of forest fires in what's now known as the Boundary Waters and the Superior National Forest. But this history book from Ely, published in 1958 for the town's 70th anniversary, lists several other bad fire years.
The way I describe a wildfire is it's like a tornado. It picks and chooses where it goes. The spark will go and there'll be nothing burned, but half a mile away there'll be something burned.
Lisa Kearns is a volunteer firefighter with the Eveleth Department. When wildfire breaks out up north, they often join the fire line by protecting structures. Volunteers and professionals have been banding together to protect people since at least 1910, when 42,000 acres burned, which led to a farmer south of Tower getting arrested for ignoring a burn ban. In 1917, 11,000 acres went up as young rangers went off to fight World War I, and hopes then fell to scarce rains. More fires burned up 22 and 27,000 acres at a time in 1923 and 29. 1936, of course, was the year of both record cold and record heat, which aggravated 145 fires. In 1948 and 52, well, we also had fire years in the Superior National Forest and Boundary Waters, with as many as 67 going at a time. Other bad fire years include the 1976 drought-fueled fires that were considered the worst since the 20s and got to the outskirts of Ely. The Mother's Day fire of 1992 nearly caused the evacuation of Tower and Sedan. Today, volunteer fire departments like Eveleth are short on people.
I know it's a time commitment, but more people that volunteer, the better for us.
Holding on to history near Eveleth, Dave Anderson, Northern News Now.
Dave, thank you. And if you enjoy our Holding On to History stories, please come back to our Northern News Now stream tomorrow at 2:30, and that's when the first episode of the best of Holding On to History will air. Well, coming up tonight at 10, Duluth City Council takes the next steps in deciding the future of the Lester Park Golf Course. A proposed amendment would split the site, preserving about 207 acres as protected green space and opening up roughly 63 acres for residential development. We'll tell you what the council decides coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. Well, before we go, one last look, Allison, at that final weather.
Yes, we do have some thunderstorms in the forecast coming up later tonight into our day tomorrow. We have 2 rounds, both in the morning as well as in the afternoon hours. Both could produce hail up to 1.5 inches in diameter, as well as 40 to 50 and maybe even 60-mile-an-hour winds or more. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on the severity of that as we go through our afternoon tomorrow. Warmer temperatures throughout the day, getting to the 70s and low 80s. Throughout the rest of the week, though, we are going to be sitting right around average, right around the 70s, in the lower 70s by the end of the week. But later on our Saturday and Sunday, some more rain chances are going to enter the forecast.
Yeah, well, we know for sure tomorrow we're going to see the rain. We can use the rain.
Absolutely.
And the cooler weather, again, helping with our wildfire situation up north. So it's good.
All good news.
All good news right now. All right. Thanks so much, Allison, and thanks for joining us tonight on The Rundown. We'll be back on air and online at 10 o'clock.